Philip III Aridaeus, half-brother of Alexander the Great. Philip III Aridaeus, the half-brother of Alexander the Great, holds a unique and often tragic place in the history of ancient Macedonia. Although he was officially crowned as king after Alexander's death, his reign was marked by a lack of power and autonomy, overshadowed by the tumultuous power struggles among the generals of his brother's vast empire. His life was defined by his mental disability, his symbolic role as a monarch, and his eventual murder during the chaotic years following Alexander's death. 1. Early life and disability. Philip III Aridaeus was born around 359 BC, the son of King Philip II of Macedon and one of his earlier wives, Philina of Larissa. Unlike his famous half-brother, Alexander, Philip III was not seen as the ideal heir to the throne due to his intellectual disabilities, which some ancient sources suggest were the result of a developmental condition or possibly even the effects of poison or trauma. His disability prevented him from effectively engaging in governance or military leadership, which meant he was not a major political figure during his father's reign. Despite this, Philip III's royal bloodline gave him a claim to the throne. He was in line to succeed his father as king, but the throne was ultimately secured by Alexander, whose remarkable military conquests and leadership overshadowed his half-brother's potential as a ruler. 2. Succession to the throne. Following Alexander the Great's unexpected death in 323 BC, the vast empire he had built quickly descended into chaos. Alexander's only legitimate heir, Alexander IV, was an infant, and there was no clear successor to lead the empire. The powerful generals and governors, known as the Diadochi, who had helped Alexander in his conquests, sought to control the empire for themselves. In the absence of a strong heir, Philip III Aridaeus was declared king, alongside Alexander IV. However, due to his mental incapacity, Philip III was unable to rule in any meaningful sense. His role as king was largely symbolic, and he became a puppet ruler under the control of various regents, including Perdiccas, who served as the chief guardian of the kings. For much of his reign, Philip III's authority was overshadowed by the competing ambitions of the Diadochi, who used him as a figurehead to maintain control over their respective territories. 3. Reign and political turmoil. During Philip III's reign, the Macedonian Empire was fragmented by internal strife and the military ambitions of Alexander's former generals. The wars of the Diadochi were marked by constant fighting among the generals, as they sought to carve out their own kingdoms from the empire that Alexander had built. Philip III, while nominally king, had little power to influence these events. The political instability of the time was further exacerbated by the machinations of his half-brother's generals. Antipater, who served as regent after Alexander's death, was a dominant figure during Philip III's rule, as were other generals like Ptolemy, Seleucus, and Antigonus. Each of these men was focused on their own ambitions and territories, and Philip III's position as a puppet king made him largely irrelevant to the outcome of these struggles. In 317 BCE, as the Diadochi continued their infighting, Cassander, another of Alexander's generals, emerged as a key player in the struggle for power. Cassander, who had previously served as regent for Alexander IV, saw Philip III as an obstacle to his own ambitions. In that year, Cassander had both Philip III and Alexander IV imprisoned. For death and aftermath. The end of Philip III's life came in 317 BC, when he was murdered on the orders of Cassander. The exact circumstances of his death remain unclear, but it is generally accepted that Cassander had him executed to solidify his own power and eliminate any potential threats to his rule. Philip III was likely killed in a covert manner, with some sources suggesting that he was either poisoned or suffocated. Philip III's death marked the end of the direct Argead line of succession. While his reign had been symbolic, his death was a significant moment in the ongoing struggle for control over the empire. His murder was part of the broader power play between the Diadochi, and it ensured that Macedonia would not return to the unified empire that Alexander the Great had once ruled. 5. Legacy. Philip III Aridaeus' legacy is one of tragedy and missed potential. Although he was the son of a king and the half-brother of one of history's greatest military leaders, his intellectual disabilities meant that he could never fully take on the responsibilities of leadership. Instead, his reign was marked by manipulation and power struggles, as he was used as a tool by the more ambitious and capable generals around him. Despite his limited role in the events following Alexander's death, Philip III's existence illustrates the fragility of dynastic power in the ancient world. The empire that Alexander had so carefully built crumbled shortly after his death, with Alexander III's family members, both his son and his half-brother, falling victim to the violent and ruthless ambitions of those who had once served him. Philip III Aridius remains a largely forgotten figure in the shadow of his brother's towering legacy, but his life and death are a poignant reminder of the political instability that followed the death of one of history's greatest conquerors.